And when it came to food being rationed, they all laughed because they knew it wouldn't affect them. These poll numbers that INSA has now collected will also cause maximum uncertainty in political Berlin at the same time. I summarized that for you this morning, and I can already tell you it's on fire. It's going up in flames. To the point that the SPD coalition leadership is now publicly clashing with the Chancellor. And all of this in a media showdown. There's no other way to put it, that's just how it's coming out now. That's what it's about today, and I'd say let's start with the first clip.
We've received a lot of new poll data from our partner INSA, and it's quite something.
Yes, there's the internal INSA poll, which I of course read with a free subscription, but I can't present it to you here. And these numbers are coming in, well, just listen to it yourself for a moment from the Bild newspaper. Who is the winner of the week, who people in Germany are turning to and want to learn more from about how this country might still be saved?
We also have to take a look at a huge leap. Alice Weidel jumped from 12th place to 6th place, making her the absolute winner of the week.
Now we come to the points they don't publish, and there's political dynamite in there. 65% of all eligible voters here in Germany can now imagine voting for the AfD in the next federal elections. If they had the option, by the way, that's what INSA reports. At the same time, it's now the case that only the Conservatives, the SPD and the Greens together would reach a slight majority of about 55% if, for example, INSA or Forza polls turned out exactly like that. That means the seat distribution is now so tight and close for this government because people here in Germany have fears, hardships and worries. And this federal government is currently doing just about everything to destroy them. And if it now comes down to the pension package being waved through as it has been announced, then the core voter base of the CDU and SPD would also collapse. And there would no longer be a majority among these three parties in the next elections. By the way, that's what INSA says.
The top issue for people in Germany, the economy is the top issue. Which problem should the federal government address more consistently?
And here, SPD and CDU are really doing everything to make this situation even more catastrophic. By the way, I will play a short clip in a moment from the head of the central bank, who made it very clear again in her speech yesterday that we are preparing for a famine. And what is happening here in Germany? Well, nothing. They simply do nothing. They argue they're tearing this coalition apart and they can't find any common ground. We just saw that in the polls as well. Not only is the AfD continuing to rise, but even an Alice Walde was able to do something that, well, until last week was almost impossible. She is among the top 10 most popular politicians here in Germany, and that's with an approval rating of just 36%. Approval ratings which already proves that people here are afraid. Above all, they are afraid that future civilizations will come and that our children and grandchildren will no longer be well off. Why have so many people left the country by now, those who could? And now here in Germany, yes, there's a mood, yes, I really have to say it like this, a sense of impending collapse. A sense of impending collapse combined with a revolutionary mood is emerging here in Germany. And you just notice that when you talk to ordinary people on the street. And now I'll give you a small excerpt, yes, from a rather long clip. From the president of the ECB, who clearly said, yes, that we probably have to prepare for a famine. And take a look at how people reacted to it.
But because it matters to me as a central banker now. Because if the price of food increases significantly, yes.
They always tell us in advance, yes, that's how it is. We have to support third world countries. And then when they're alone in their statements, they say, yes. The prices for food have increased so much that in order to prevent famines, we will now have to ration food. Then they laugh at you because, and that's exactly the picture we actually see here in Europe, the rich and powerful, they're making a fool out of you from start to finish. Because far too many people out there are still too stupid. And in the next elections, they vote for the red, black, well, or green parties here in Germany. Which, by the way, and I really have to tell you, I was heavily criticized for saying that. Which, by the way, is mainly the fault of Friedrich Merz, among others, and just how popular he is. Let's hear just how popular he is. I'll start briefly.
These figures show that Friedrich Merz is, according to international surveys, the most unpopular politician and head of government in the world. Well, there are some among them you wouldn't want to compare yourself to.
Well, let's work through this topic. Keir Starmer, for example, quote unquote, who, by the way, will probably have to resign now because of all his lying and storytelling. But we can also use dead people as examples, and many don't know this. Even Adolf from back then, yes, still had a popularity of just over 30% at the end. And even that, the Chancellor can't even manage to stay just above that anymore. That means he's even more unpopular than the worst person we've ever had here in Germany. Well, okay, I'm not saying German because he really wasn't German. But what we're seeing here is that this government is being asked by the people every day, resign, Merz, just go, I don't know, back to the free market or somewhere else where you can't do any more harm to this country. And I would even go so far as to say, if this situation doesn't improve soon, at some point it will reach the point where people will arm themselves again with pitchforks and manure forks. And then the question is, who's on the hit list? The Chancellor is well protected, but there are also a lot of other people who, I really have to say it like this, will suffer here because of the psyche and paranoia of some people. And the game he's playing is extremely dangerous, not just for him, for his family, for the people around him, for politics, for the people here. But this game he's playing, there are enough people who are absolute hardliners. And if those people ever snap, what should we be prepared for here? The Stauffenberg assassination 2027.
I think he needs to be careful. If he keeps going like this, there will be significant questions within the CDU about his leadership style and his political approach.
Yes, even though in the CDU, where they've now put a muzzle on people, I still got some information from the CDU yesterday that they no longer want to go along with what Merz is doing. The CDU just thinks it's going too far. They're already working on a rebellion plan internally within the CDU, but they know that in the next elections they'll probably only scrape by with a lot of difficulty. And really somehow only by the skin of their teeth manage to form a three-party government. And if this government crashes and burns, as we've seen with the SPD and the Greens, then the approval ratings will also crash even further. And then, theoretically, you would already need a four-party alliance just to get a stable government at all. And that's called a four-party alliance. Because with the firewall here in Germany, which would really destroy this country, they're now trying to just keep going for the time being. And they're trying to push everything through despite serious misgivings because they didn't use the right means from the very beginning. And that's why my question is, are you up for a black, red, purple, green coalition government? I think that would be the death blow for Germany. And by then, at the latest, the AfD won't have to worry about being the junior partner anymore. With that in mind, I wish you a wonderful morning.